In the beginning was water. 90 million years ago, this was all sea. Over time, a kilometre-thick layer of sediment formed on the seabed, slowly turning to sandstone. As the water receded, this rock was exposed to gravity, frost, rain and wind. Together, these forces carved out a fantastic labyrinth of ravines, gorges, columns, cliffs and natural arches. Then a river forced its way through, creating the largest sandstone canyon in Europe. And spectacular scenery. This unique landscape is now home to some very special residents. In its winter fur, the stoat is almost invisible in the snow. The black woodpecker guards his nesting territory, knowing that spring is on the way. The female woodpeckers start competing for territory and mates. This male is already cleaning up the cavity he so laboriously chiseled out a few years ago. Rock walls can provide safe nesting sites. The black storks arrived from Africa in March. This pair has returned to their nest under a protective overhang. After 4 months spent apart in Africa, it's a joyful reunion. Mutual affection keeps the couple together. Their relationship can last many years, even a lifetime. Ravens also like to nest on steep rock faces. They began building early in March. The peregrine falcon, too, favours an inaccessible ledge. It's the perfect lookout. With their exceptional vision, these birds can spot their prey from miles away and any approaching intruders. This time, the threat is a common buzzard. Though far bigger, the buzzard realizes it has no chance against the more agile falcon and soon beats a retreat. During the last century, the peregrine falcon disappeared from this region completely. But thanks to a reintroduction program started in the 1990s in neighbouring Saxony, it has made a remarkable comeback. 1/10 of all nesting pairs in the Czech Republic now thrive here, in the Elbe Sandstone Protected Landscape Area and the Bohemian Switzerland National Park. In the black stork nest, the great moment has arrived, the laying of the first egg. The male, being a proper father, is present and takes on his responsibilities in no time. Stone and water. Two crucial elements that shape life in this sandstone world. Up above, the rocky tops are exposed to the scorching sun. It's hot and arid up here. The overhang offers the young ravens at least partial protection from the pouring rain. The tops are also the first to be lashed by the elements, but the water soon drains off. Some soaks into the sandstone. The rest ends up carving a path of cool streams and dark creeks through the sandstone labyrinth. It's an ideal breeding ground for the fire salamander. There's plenty of food, so the larvae grow and grow. In 3 months, they stop breathing through their gills and leave their native stream to take to dry land. But for the rest of their lives, they will never stray far from water. The crystal clear water of the Rimmer Kamenitze is vital for the survival of the endangered European bullhead. In the strong current, the fish cling to the riverbed, moving forward just inches at a time. Their protective camouflage allows them to blend in perfectly with their surroundings. Attempts to revive the Atlantic salmon population by releasing fish fry are starting to bear fruit. More and more adults are now returning from the sea to the Kamenitze to spawn. The clear water is a good source of food for the kingfisher. The white-throated dipper is never far from the water. This skilled underwater hunter, a relative of the common blackbird, will brave even the strongest current to pluck his favourite snack, the caddisfly larvae, from the riverbed. The dipper too makes use of the inaccessible rock wall to build her nest. Here her chicks are safe. The clear water of the forest ponds is swarming with tadpoles. At this age, the baby frogs eat mostly algae, which they gather from stones and water plants. One is the inconspicuous Leronium, also known as floating water plantain, which needs clear water with a low nutrient content to survive. For years it was thought to have died out in Central Europe, until in 1999 botanists discovered Leronium growing right here in the Elbe Sandstone protected landscape area. The floating blossoms open just above the water surface, providing they can reach it. If not, the Leronium has to find air another way. The blooms that open underwater cover themselves in a big bubble, also a likely means of self-pollination. Water is also a crucial element in the lives of black storks, who search for frogs and fishes in the forest ponds. There are about 10 pairs of these timid birds nesting on the Czech side of the border. A week ago, 2 chicks hatched in this nest under a rocky overhang. They can put away unbelievable amounts of food at a sitting. A couple of valleys away, this pair of storks broke with tradition by building their nest not in the tree canopy, but, like many other birds, on the cliff face. At least it's just as safe. This huge eel is simply too big for the chicks to swallow. No such problem for a hungry dad. Next time, he'll bring them something more manageable. These rock citadels have been built and transformed over millions of years, and they're still changing, only at an imperceptible pace. But just sometimes we can catch a glimpse of this never-ending process. Grain by grain, the sand that once lay on the ocean floor is released. It collects at the foot of the rocks, or continues its journey through the landscape. This particular location suits a quite particular species of insect. Sheltered from the rain by the overhanging rock, antlion larvae hatch one by one beneath the dry sand. Patrolling to and fro just under the surface, they seek out the most suitable site for building their life's work, a lethal trap. The antlion's funnel-shaped trap is an ingenious piece of engineering. The smallest grains of sand are on the rim of the funnel, so it takes only one small movement to cause an avalanche. Waiting under the trap, the antlion larva detects a tremor. If it's done its job properly, the ant's fate is sealed. Using its flat head as a shovel, it hurls more and more sand on its prey. The ant inexorably slides down to the bottom of the trap, where the larva seizes it in its hollow mandibles and sucks out its vital juices. The larva winters twice, constantly perfecting its deadly arts. Now at last it's transformation time. The adult antlion crawls out from the sand. It will live for barely a month. Rocks, water, and also trees. Forest covers 90% of the Bohemian Switzerland National Park. Much of it used to be mixed woodland, mostly beech. The areas where this deciduous forest has survived are now an important sanctuary for species diversity. These older beeches provide the black woodpecker with both food and an ideal home. The geological bedrock is crucial for some forest residents. The sandy soil certainly suits one of the local characters, the minotaur beetle. It's perfect for hiding its precious treasure, the deer droppings in which their eggs are incubated. After many years, wolves are now returning to these forests. If their population can be sustained, it will help reduce the excessive number of deer. Deer overpopulation seriously limits the forest's ability to recover. At night, the forest comes alive with mysterious sounds. A European edible dormouse and her young have left their tree-hole nest to forage in the beech canopy. Beeches don't yield a rich harvest of nuts every year. During seed years, when the beech nuts are plentiful, the dormice have their largest litters. They feel safest high in the trees. But for these easy pickings, it's worth taking the occasional risk. Of all Central European plant seeds, beech nuts have the highest fat content. The dormice are preparing for a 7-month sleep, and the energy they get from the beech nuts will help them survive their first long winter. The garden dormouse, a close relative of the European edible dormouse, is smaller, has more striking colouring, and lives among the rocks rather than in the treetops. One of our rarest mammals, this nocturnal rodent leads a secretive, undercover life. But who knows? If you're lucky, you may glimpse one someday after dusk. People used to come to this region mainly for one reason: logging. When most of the beech and fir had been felled, they started to plant spruce, which grows faster than deciduous trees and yields a quicker profit. That's why so much of the forest in this region consists of spruce. Spruce was planted as a monoculture, covering large areas, most of them quite unsuitable. As the climate changes, the trees weaken and wither. But the spruce has another powerful natural enemy: the European bark beetle. The adult beetles fly onto the tree trunk and try to drill their way through the bark. At this point, the healthy tree can still prevent disaster. As its sap channels are punctured, it releases resin that suffocates the intruder. Weakened by their unsuitable environment and increasingly frequent periods of drought, the spruces are defenseless against the intensifying invasion. Once the beetle has drilled its way into the tree, it releases pheromones to lure other bark beetles. They lay their eggs, and the developing larvae feed on the phloem, the tree's nutrient canal. The tree slowly dies. In the national park and its surroundings, the beetle has destroyed large areas of spruce forest. At first, all dead and rotting timber was removed from the national parks, leaving large tracts of bare hillside. In time, however, it became clear that the forest was slow to grow back on exposed and overheated surfaces without moisture, shade or nutrients. So now the dry trunks, whether fallen or still standing, are left where they are. In their shadow, a new forest is emerging, feeding on the dead bodies of its ancestors. Here, a dead trunk serves the needs of a boreal owl, who's taken up residence in the black woodpecker's old home. Shaped by nature herself, the new forest will be well adapted to local conditions, and so most resistant to attack from the bark beetle. There's a long way to go, but in the end it will lead to a healthy and more diverse mixed forest. These large expanses of dry spruce forest face one immense danger: fire. It only takes one carelessly discarded cigarette. Only about 12% of the national park was affected by the terrible fire of July 2022. Even so, it was the biggest forest fire the Czech Republic has ever seen. But was this fire really such a tragedy for nature? At first sight, the scorched area seems like a forest graveyard. Yet, at the same time, it is also a cradle of new life. In some places, the fire passed through the forest quickly. So quickly, in fact, that not only larvae and insect pupae were able to survive in the soil, but plant seeds and fungal spores as well. Soon after the fire, the first fungi appeared on the scorched tree trunks. Their spores had been waiting years for this moment. On the uppermost layer of soil, fungi began to emerge such as Pyronema and Anthracobia, species that thrive on ash, as their names suggest. Alongside them, other colonists take hold, like this umbrella liverwort. Another early arrival was the wolf spider, upsiling in on its web. The open, dry environment that's been temporarily created suits it well. Other species soon appear. Those that are adaptable and can handle almost any situation have an advantage. We can see at a glance that the fire hasn't destroyed the entire forest. Some of the deciduous trees have survived. The beeches are already sprouting new leaves. As a natural fertilizer, ash supports the growth of new plants. This gives us a glimpse into the future of the new forest, a forest that will be stronger, more diverse and more resilient than the old monoculture, and less vulnerable to fire and other natural threats. In 2006, a coniferous forest burned down around Ravens Rock near the village of Jędrzejkowice. Now, without human intervention, a new forest is growing here, consisting mainly of pioneer deciduous trees, most of them birch. It's a good indication of how forests can recover naturally on their own. The Elbe Sandstone Protected Landscape Area and Bohemian Switzerland National Park. To the north, over the border in Germany, it continues as the Saxon Switzerland National Park and Protected Landscape Area. This spectacular landscape is home to a number of remarkable species, many of them rare or endangered. But perhaps the greatest spectacle of all is the amazing power of nature at work. The unending, dramatic cycle of death and rebirth.